to everyone watching this video. I just recently saw Mary Poppins Returns, the new Disney musical that I believe is still out in theaters, and I had a lot of thoughts on it, both positive and negative, but I will be focusing much more on the negative in this review because most of the positive things I had were just fairly generic Disney technical things that every Disney movie kind of just gets right. So, anyway, here we are going to go into acting and performance. So, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I thought that Emily Blunt as the titular character, I think her name is Marlo Popcorn, was great. She did very well with what she was given. She seems to have understood why people liked it, but I mean, she was given the script, which is not the greatest script of all time, but she was good. She was very good. She had a few funny moments, and I enjoyed her as Mary Poppins. Michael and Jane Banks, I'm kind of putting together because, I don't know, they're both good actors. I don't know either of their names, the actors, but they were very good. I thought they did well. Michael Banks gave a believable performance, and I thought he did well. Now on to Lin-Manuel Miranda. He was great. I thought that he was awesome. I'm bringing him up now because he actually had, in the movie, a little romance subplot with Jane Banks, which I thought was fine. They both acted well in it, but it wasn't the most complex or fleshed out story. And while they had good scenes together and I believed in the charisma, I think it's good that they didn't focus on it too much and had it mainly going on as the backdrop to what's happening to the characters in the movie right now. But yeah, he was very good. I thought that his singing and dancing was excellent. Under the Lovely London Sky was probably my favorite song in it, and this may just be because I'm a really big Hamilton fan, but I thought that he was great, and that's about all I have to say about him. I thought that I wasn't going to be able to separate him from his character. I thought I was only going to be able to think of him as Lin-Manuel Miranda instead of Jack the Lamplighter, but he ended up doing well, and I enjoyed his performance. The child actors, which I'm also kind of lumping together, I thought did well. There were 3 of them. They were very good for child actors. The youngest one was probably the worst of the 3, but they were all generally quite good. There were only a couple of moments that kind of took me out of the movie, and those were mostly with the actor for Georgie, whose name I cannot recall at this point. But, I mean, what can you expect? I think he's like 7 or something. I have no idea. They all look really young, so I can't expect much. They all did well, and when I was taken out of the movie, it didn't really hurt my enjoyment overall, so it was kind of negligible. Colin Firth as the banker who is kind of taking over for his uncle. I thought he was pretty good. He was very underwritten. He was just a completely generic Disney villain, which, I mean, people have been asking for that, but I think that was mainly for animated movies because of the direction that villains are going in the animated movies. I don't think people had that much complaints about the depth of live action people, but I thought that he did well with what he was given, but he definitely wasn't given much. He's just kind of there to be the bad guy. Finally, Meryl Streep. Oh God, Meryl Streep. I can't. I'll talk about it later. Please, I'll get to it later. Okay, so moving on to the music. I thought it was well done. It's pretty good. There were definitely highs and lows. Some songs I thought weren't too great. Some I really liked, like I loved Under the Lovely London Sky, as I pointed out earlier, and Turning Turtles was terrible. It was in the worst scene in the movie. I'm going to get to that later, as I said before. Oh my god, I want to tear my eyes out. But yeah, it's well done if you're into musicals. I mean, people who really like movie musicals kind of have to settle for anything nowadays because they don't have much options. Now we're getting into the part where I think I have a lot to say about it. This is one of the main things that I felt like discussing as I left this movie. The book and the original movie and, you know, this. So, I've not seen Saving Mr. Banks, which seems very on topic for me, but yeah, first off, I want to say that I'm totally biased. I'm a really, really huge fan of the book. It's left a very strong impression on me. I saw the old movie a very long time ago, but I don't remember very much from it. If a few things stuck with me from that movie, it's that Mary was really just a nice, sweet babysitter instead of the kind of more stern, strict babysitter from the book. But in the book, you end up caring for her, and that's kind of a big part of the book. But I think that in this sequel, in Mary Poppins Returns, the movie, they are taking steps more into the middle. I can see movie fans going in here into this movie and saying, why did Mary Poppins acting like that? Like, she seems more stern than I remember, but less stern. She has more of a soft side than in the book. She's kind of in the middle. So it's not fully pleasing anyone, but they're taking steps. When we go to the comparison from the book to the original movie, I can see why they made changes. I'm sad that they, like, Disney-fied it as much as they did, but I get it. I understand why they made changes, because they just generally, the book was very chapter booky. It had a story and a narrative and an arc and satisfying ending, but it was the kind of format that you find a lot in chapter books, where it's like there's a narrative, but it's mostly just disconnected adventures one after the other, where there's not much of a thread. And I get why they changed that to the movie, although that's kind of the thing that they kept more than Mary Poppins. But yeah, they changed Mary Poppins' character a lot in the original movie, and it ended up being something very, very on brand for Disney. That I'm sad about that, but it's okay. And people love that movie, and I'm fine with that. As I was saying, this new Mary Poppins seems a bit more in the middle when it comes to her temperament, her personality, and I have not seen Saving Mr. Banks, but the fact that that movie exists, even if it's not the most unbiased, perfect portrait of what happened, because, you know, Disney is making it, the fact that it exists seems like it's a step in the right direction, where they're kind of at least recognizing the existence of the book, and I can see that reflected in this new movie. And I think that Dave McGee, who is the director, has probably at least read the book, which I think is a very important and good thing.
Once you frame a history, a culture, or even a story in a certain way, it can be really hard to unframe it. And the truth is, Mary Poppins has become a Disney movie in the popular consciousness, much more than it is seen as a beloved series of children's books. Lord of the Rings are still books first. The Chronicles of Narnia are still books first. But Mary Poppins is a Disney movie.
I'm gonna get into the end, which is, now I'm going to kind of spoil the general plot of the movie, so if you don't want to have any spoilers, just kind of stop watching, or maybe I'll put a time code, I have no idea. When it comes to the story, the general thing is Mr. Banks took out a loan from the bank because his wife died and he couldn't pay the bills. And now they need that money back, that loan, and he can't pay for it, so they're going to repossess his house. And he remembers that his father had shares in the bank, which he could use to pay off the loan, but he can't find them. Oh no. And then kind of Mary Poppins comes in while Georgie is flying a kite, which he found in the attic and patched up. Ooh, hint, hint. He patched up with like an old drawing of his father's, but Mary Poppins flies in, zip, zap, zop, whatever. But when it comes to the end is really annoying to me because, I mean, it's a Disney movie. We all knew it was going to end with a happy ending. Yay, fireworks, sparkles, who cares? But I'm fine with knowing how a movie is going to end. It doesn't mean that I can't enjoy the movie, because you can still feel tension in the moment, even if you know that it's eventually going to work out for the characters. What I hate is when they play up that tension to a point where there isn't tension anymore, because you're like, well, I know how it's going to end. So when they go around flaunting how they think that you have no idea where the story is going, that's when it gets like kind of annoying. Basically what happens in the end is they're moving out, they got up all the belongings, and then Georgie says, oh wait, I forgot my kite, and then they go and get the kite. And then he sees that the paper that Georgie was using to patch up the kite was the certificate of bank shares. Oh my god. So they have to rush down to the bank. I'm fine with this. It's like, meh, it has a setup, so it's a setup, and I'm sure if you were looking really closely earlier, then you could have figured it out or something, like if you were really looking for it. But then they go, and the thing is, they have until midnight to pay off this loan. So they have to rush to the bank because they don't have enough time. And Jack, who's played by Lin-Manuel Miranda and is a lamplighter, brings all of his friends. And what they have to do is they climb up Big Ben, and they're going to turn back the clock like however many minutes so that the bank's parents can have time to pay off the loan and stuff. So yeah, I'm fine with that. So there's this big tense action scene where they're climbing up the tower and blah blah blah. I'm fine with it. It's a big showstopper action scene at the very end. And then what happens is the part where I start to get kind of annoyed. So they're up at the top of the tower, but oh no, he can't reach it. Oh god. And I'm like, you've had enough fake outs, okay? But who cares? So, you know what happens? Mary Poppins flies up and sets back Big Ben, which is annoying. I would have been fine with him just setting it back himself, but, okay. So then the bank's parents get into the bank, and they are kind of taking out the paper from the kite and putting it back together because Georgie cut it up so that he could patch the kite. And okay, sure. And then, oh no, what's happening? They don't have the piece with the signatures. Georgie must have thrown it out. Oh god. And it's legally void if they don't have the signatures, which is just like, at this point, I'm just sitting there like, I know it's going to work out fine. Please, just end it. I'd be fine with it ending there. That would have been a fine thing, but no. So, what happens is they're going to repossess his house, and then at that exact moment, Dick Van Dyke, who's playing the uncle of the greedy bank owner who wants their house, marches in and says, I knew I shouldn't have trusted you with my bank. And he says, hey, Michael, you'll keep your house. It's fine. I'd be more forgiving of this if he was doing it out of, like, the kindness of his heart, like he was a nice person, and he didn't want to see the Bankses cheated out of their money. But no, the real reason why he's doing this is because in the first movie, when Michael Banks was a kid, he gave the bank his tuppence, which they then invested, and now it's enough to pay off their loan. It's enough to pay off this entire house, which was being repossessed. The tuppence. It's so stupid. But, like, that's kind of where it ends. But the thing, it just pisses me off, because at that point, I was just completely not invested. I was, like, bored, because when you have that many fake outs and that many saves, too many saves like that just kind of kill the stakes. It makes it feel completely fake. Because it's like, well, if someone's just going to step in and save them again, why should I feel tension? So, yeah, that's a problem that I had with the end. So, onto the pacing. I thought that it was kind of okay. Not too great. The thing is, it had some problems. One thing that kind of annoyed me was this big subplot in the middle of the movie where the kids are like, oh, we have this china vase that they think that they can sell and pay off the loan. Okay, fine, cool. Then they drop it and crack it. Oh no. And that makes the picture in it change, where the carriage in the painting on the vase is now broken and they have to go in and fix it and do a big musical number, and it takes a while, and then blah blah blah. They keep going from place to place, and they keep like fixing this vase and doing whatever inside the vase, and then they have this big musical number, and then there's another big musical number, and blah 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 blah. It just keeps kind of going and going. The vase subplot goes on for a while, or at least it feels like that. And then there's this kind of jarring cut from them like singing and dancing and having fun to Michael Banks screaming at his children because they were back late. It's jarring. I had forgotten that the rest of the movie was going on at that point, because it felt like forever since they had switched back. The thing about the pacing, it's not very helped by how much of a contrast there is between the two subplots. Because there's the fun Mary Poppins stuff, and then there's Michael Banks trying to stop his children from being homeless, which don't mesh very well. Doesn't quite work. So, yeah, it's definitely not helped by the big, bland Disney cinematography that never really grabs your attention. But there's this drawing cut, basically, and then the next day they go back to the vase subplot. They're going and they get it fixed, and that's the worst scene in the movie, but I'll get to that later. They get it fixed, and then they're like, hey, how much do you think this vase is worth, to the person who's fixing it? And the person, Meryl Streep, is just like, oh, it's worth nothing. I'm sure it's worth a lot to your mother. Like, nothing came about of this. They spent like half an hour on this one stupid vase, and it goes nowhere. Nothing comes of it, it's just nowhere. So that's just like this really big detour in the middle of the movie, and it doesn't quite work because it's not interrupted by regular cuts back to the other plot. It's just kind of dragging and dragging, and then it just stops because there was no point to have that. It was just stupid. Nothing came of it. Now we're going to move on to the theme. The theme is interesting because there's like author's message, theme, whatever. The message relates to their mother is dead, and Mr. Banks says, I'm so sad now that your mother has left us, whatever. I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. And then the kids are like, Mommy hasn't left us. She's with us in our hearts. I'm fine with it. It's an okay moral. Maybe it's not overdone, and it's just because I hear it way too much in my life, but in my opinion, it's a bit overdone. But, like, it's fine. It's fine. It's a good moral, it's a nice lesson, blah, blah, blah. And at a point in the movie, I thought to myself, oh, they are going to lose their house. This is really smart. They're going to lose their house, and then that'll tie into the theme because the memories that they made in that house will always be with them, and it'll tie into the message because it's like their mother. And then I thought, oh wait, but that means that the one-dimensional Disney villain will have to win, and that can't happen. Not just because, like, oh, the heroes have to win, but also because when you have a villain who's that one-dimensionally evil, it's really narratively unsatisfying for him to win. It's just like, oh, he never got his comeuppance. So those two things are kind of conflicting, and then there's just the whole Mary Poppins plot, which I guess you could argue is like, you can always have your childhood with you, like letting go of your childhood, but no, it just doesn't quite work with the tone of the rest of the movie, and it's not tied in that well. It's like our childhood will still stick with us. That didn't work for me, and it just kind of seemed like they wanted to have this theme, but they didn't tie it in very well. They only kind of had it reflected in one half of the story, and even in that half it's kind of conflicting with the story. But oh crap, oh god, it's time. Why does this scene exist? Why? I don't. Why is this? Why is this exist? Why did it get embarrassed? It's time. Okay, so back to the Meryl Streep thing. This scene is terrible. It sucks. It's the worst scene in the movie. Maybe I just like bit down on a really, really, really buttery, over-salted, over-buttered piece of popcorn before watching the scene, but oh god. It's so cringy. The jokes just don't land. It's there's just one big joke, and it's ha ha ha! Look at the funny Russian accent. Funny, right? Laugh, damn you! Meryl Streep just made no sense in this role. I don't know why they asked her. It's just the weird, stupid, terrible comic relief scene because Disney was worried that those 5-year-olds in the audience would get so bored that they needed to put something really, really stupid in. By the way, I'm a 9-year-old subscribed to PewDiePie. I even put up posters. But like, oh my god, it's such a bad scene, and it's so poorly acted, and the jokes don't land, and the song is the worst song in the movie. It's so stupid, and I hate it so much. I hate it with a burning passion. This is just the only scene in the movie where I sat there and I watched it and I went, wow, this is not a good scene. This is a bad scene. It's just, you can't understand. You can't understand what I'm talking about unless you watch the movie. It's just so supremely cringy, and it's terrible. And Meryl Streep didn't make sense to be the comic relief. The song is so bad, but I mostly blame just the writers. It's so supremely terrible. Okay, so now I'm gonna be wrapping up my video. It was incredibly long, so if you're still watching, thanks. As to if I would recommend this, I think I would. If you're in the mood for like a very light Disney musical, or if you're a really big fan of movie musicals, because there's not a lot coming out these days, like non-animated movie musicals. But like Spider-Verse is in theaters, which I just saw and is so incredible, and Widows is supposed to be really good, and like, I don't remember. There's just a bunch of stuff that like I would probably recommend over this. But if you're into this sort of thing, definitely go see it. It's the kind of thing you'll like if you like that kind of thing. Yeah, but I definitely won't be rewatching this anytime soon. I'll rate it somewhere between a 6.5 to 7.5 out of 10. I'll put up a 7, just hovering around there. Yeah, it's fine. I just make sure to leave the theater when they say the words Second Wednesday, and then come back when the scene is done. That's what I'd recommend. Yeah, so here's some recent art that I made, and I felt like sharing in a video, but, couldn't really work it in that well. And also, on a related note, go and watch and subscribe to the channel Chiff Loves You to Death, which I am a large fan of. Please subscribe as well, and like the video, whatever. I don't care. Bye.